Welcome to another episode of the KOO Podcast series where we explore the philosophy guiding today's leaders in marketing and business. This podcast is for CMOs and CEOs shaping the future of their companies through innovative strategies. I'm your host, Clo Willaerts, and today we have a remarkable guest with us, Anne-Clotilde Picot, who currently serves as the Country People and Culture Manager at IKEA Belgium. And she is joining us today to share her insights. Welcome, Anne-Clotilde.
Thank you, Clo.
Your title, actually you work in HR, but you used to be in marketing. So you went over from the dark side to the light side. What are the differences and similarities, according to you, between marketing and HR?
Well, you see, HR or marketing or any field has some technical specificities, I suppose. But in a way, for me, I see more similarities than differences. And you can wrap it up. The most thing is it's all about people at the end. So, as human beings, we have the same needs, all of us. You want to belong, you want to be seen and recognized, you want to be safe, you want to have a purpose in life. And that plays whether you're in your customer or consumer role or if you're in your co-worker role. Maybe it shows differently, but it's the same thing. So I think there's a big commonality.
But let's be honest, IKEA is in retail. So isn't it about the customers? Don't customers come first?
Well, that's an interesting one. I think it's a little bit of maybe a controversial one. Maybe, a purely marketing person would say, yes, of course. And I have to say no. I think it's, of course you work for your customers. But as a company, I think you have to understand that it all starts from your coworkers because they are the ones who are embodying your company, your brand, your product. They are the ones who are also connecting to your customers. So they need to believe in it. They need to be happy to do it. So no, for me, it has to start with the coworkers, definitely.
So it's not just some fluffy language that a company uses on their website to say we are all about people. You actually use real data and technology to enforce this, more or less. Let's talk about technology first, digital technology. How do you, when you are all about people, how do you use digital tools or technology to make it happen?
But it's a bit, you could compare to marketing from a customer relation or segmentation perspective, for instance. If you want to serve your customers in the best possible way, nowadays you have all kinds of tools to store their data and analyze the data and support your decision making based on that. And it's the same with HR. We want to give the smoothest and best possible experience to our coworkers. So of course we store data on our co-workers with their agreement. Let's be really clear. And we have tools that allow us to use that data in the most efficient way. So it's either tools for us to, for instance, store all data from performance reviews so that when a manager leaves, then the data is still there, but we can also see who is interested in what position, or it's data or tools that support the coworker experience and make it smoother. So if you are unfortunately sick and you have a sick note to send, then we have ways to do this in a more automated way than 20 years ago, say. So very comparable, I would say.
Yeah. So how do you measure? What do you use, for example, to measure your employee engagement?
Yeah, we at least at IKEA, but I'm sure many companies would do that. We also have a coworker satisfaction survey that we run on a yearly base, and even now we have with a specific digital tool we can do this on a more frequent base, on more shorter surveys, where we ask them questions about how they feel in the company, how engaged they are, would they recommend the company as well, but also very specific questions on how they perceive the leadership, the teamwork, if their job is, if they have the right tools to do their job, all kinds of questions covering their experience.
Because IKEA Belgium, how many employees are we talking about?
More or less 4,400.
4,000? Yeah, wow.
A bit more than 4,000.
And yet, how formal is IKEA? Because I can imagine that you want it to be like a well-oiled machine where a lot of the employee-related processes are automated. Is this the case? Or do you see IKEA Belgium more as a company with still a lot of informal? processes?
I think IKEA, by definition, is an informal company. We say yay or tu to each other. It's a very informal way of communicating with each other. But of course, as we grew bigger, we're also formalizing more in order to be more efficient, but also respect or guarantee the quality of our processes as well. So I would say we're a little bit in between. There are many tools supporting things, but the human interaction is really at the core as well of how we work.
This series is about collaborative intelligence. So there's a lot of informal knowledge that sits in the heads of your employees. Do you use technology to somehow make this knowledge available even to fellow employees who are not in the same team or who don't even physically ever meet?
This is something that is really developing more and more for us. So, for instance, we have some kind of a knowledge bank that has been initiated really on the customer relations side, specifically by the teams who are answering problems. And
Customer
care, they need to have access to such a huge amount of information and to do their work in the best possible way. So that we have now automated or digitalized, and this is working really well. And now we're starting to use, I would say, a mirror tool for coworkers. Also for them to be able to access the information around, their coworker experience in a way, again, that doesn't depend from the person that you're talking to, but that we have a source of, the most neutral information that everybody has access to.
And no AI yet there?
Yeah, there's tons of AI all over. Yeah. But in different, for instance, on the customer contact side, we have a chatbot. This, I believe, will come also for the coworker information as well.
Yeah, because AI is a lot better in making sense of large data sets.
Absolutely, because you're getting very big things.
Yeah, back to people. So you have people and culture in your job title. And you also mentioned that people need a purpose, and your job plays a big role in the sense of purpose that people have. So what is your vision on unlocking passion with people and making them feel belong to the company that they work for, the sense of belonging, purpose? How do you unlock that?
I think that's a broad question.
But recruitment, for example.
Okay, but that's an easy
that's
door
easier,
in.
Yeah.
At IKEA, we like to say that we are a very value-based company. We have very strong value, and that, for instance, starts in the recruitment. So we recruit people, we say, more based on values. So we try to understand who they are and what they want to do, and their energy and passion in what we're doing, in serving a customer, in home furnishing, but also in developing themselves, in growing. And that, in a way, you could say we're not it sounds a little bit weird, but we're not super interested in diplomas or past experiences. For the large majority of the jobs, we're more interested in what you can become than what you have been in the past, if I can say like that.
Yeah.
Of course, sometimes you need somebody ultra specialist on something.
Yeah.
But generally, the behavior, the values for us, anyway, they are more important than anything else when we recruit.
But everybody says that they're passionate about, if you look at LinkedIn profiles, they're all passionate about, their field work, they're passionate about teamwork. Do you, in your experience, do you have ways to actually ask the right questions so that you assess someone's personality and potential instead of just looking at the CV?
Well, I'm not a professional recruiter, right? So I'm probably not the best in that. But indeed, it's about talking about, asking specific questions on specific past experience, and all recruiters, they are really trained on this. And we also have assessments where we often put people together in a group and we make them interact around a specific case, I would say, or game, to see also a little bit how they behave in a group. And, you don't have to be the loudest person. That's not what is interesting. What's interesting is how you interact, how you want to collaborate, how you want to communicate with others, I guess.
And collaborate even across departments?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that a good thing, or does it make things messy?
No, I think sometimes it can make things a little bit slower, but it also makes, there's this say, if you're on your own, you can go fast, but if you're several, if you're together, you can go further. Yeah. And I think that is crucial today, especially it was always the case, and for IKEA it's always been extremely important. It's part of the values, the togetherness, but I would say even the way the world is turning, the challenges that we're facing, you cannot, most of them these days, you cannot solve them with just your past experience, and you need really the richness of different point of views, different expertise, or different experiences.
So a career at IKEA is rarely linear.
It can be if that's what you want,
if that's
or
your
it
focus.
can, exactly, or it can be totally unlinear. Like mine is not linear at all. I started in sales, I did most of it in marketing, and I'm now in HR. And in the meantime, I've worked with expansion and sustainability and innovation. So not linear, but it's more about your willingness to grow and I would say the soft skills maybe that you acquire as you grow, because the technical competence, a lot of it you can learn. A lot.
True, except that I still don't know how to assemble a piece of IKEA furniture. I always end up with more parts.
I'm not very good at it either. No, I have to say, thank God that's not what they asked me to do.
It's actually a good personality test. If you really want to check if someone is a good fit, try to assemble a complicated IKEA furniture together
with two people,
and then you really
that can be a
get
good
to know.
one indeed.
In the company, if you look at projects, are there formal transversal projects across units that stimulate this cross-departmental collaboration? Are they?
Yeah, there are more and more of those.
More and more?
Yeah.
And who comes up with these projects?
Sometimes it's a team in a store, or a store as a team, I would say. Sometimes it comes from the direction that is given by your global organization, or the priorities that have been set on Belgium level. I have one example, for instance. Very recently, I think over the summer, we had to create a project. We want to change. It will sound very, silly maybe, or very practical. We want to change the cash lines in the stores. Traditionally, you had traditional cash line with somebody sitting and rolling the products, and then...
Oh, that's what you mean with the cash line.
That's what I mean with the cash line, the checkout at the store. More and more, we want to give the possibility for our customers to have self-checkout, because that's far quicker, and that avoids queuing. And we are trying to make the experience as smooth as possible for our customers, for both actually, but for our customers there. Now, changing the checkout line, it's construction project, you could say. Yeah. It's also involving customer experience. But there are people there, the cashiers, they are the end users in a way. And for them, it will be a different job, because it's not the same standing with certain number of tills that you have to check.
You want to keep an eye on what's going on, but you don't want to breathe in their necks.
Exactly.
While they're trying to check
and you don't
themselves
have
out.
to do this thing anymore.
No.
It's a really different thing. So a whole group has been formed, cross-functional. They took 2 cashiers from each unit, brought them to the Netherlands where this was already implemented, and then together with them, they looked at, okay, what does it mean in terms of ergonomics, in terms of ways of working, what do we want?
Fraud prevention?
Exactly, for instance, as well, because they are really involved in this as well. And I think the beauty of this was really cross-functional, but also with the end users being in the center of it, because eventually as a group, and they were cross units as well, French-speaking, Dutch-speaking, all mixed, as a group they said, okay, this is what we think we need to do. This is how it needs to be. That's, the limit of what we can do here, but here we can go further and more thought. And that's, for me, is a fantastic experience and a great example of collaboration.
You mentioned thousands of employees. From my experience, do they come from all sorts of backgrounds in society or age? Do you deliberately look for that when recruiting? Or does it just happen because it's what IKEA stands for? So
I think it happens because that's what IKEA stands for. So we do stand for, we're there for the many people. That's actually really like an internal sentence as well. We want to be for everyone, and that goes for customers, but also for co-workers. So traditionally and organically, we attract all kinds of people. Then we are conscious now of also making sure that everybody has the same chances of evolving in the company and growing. And that requires, in some cases, a little bit more focus.
Yeah.
So, base comes naturally and it's really good. And then we're working on it to make it a really structured structured path for people.
We'll get back to that later. But I was thinking of, for example, you speak about the values of IKEA. But on social media, it's not always easy. On the one hand, as a company, you want to position yourself as an organization that is aware of today's problems in the world. Hot topics, top topical sometimes, things like climate change. Where do you have like guidelines on which topics to avoid? In social media specifically?
There is only, I would say, there are very few topics that we should avoid, and that is everything that is connected to politics. And taking a stand on a political topic or on a religious topic, that we don't do. Because, as I said, we are for everyone. So, whatever you connect to in these fields, you should be welcome with us, and we don't want to enter in that. For the rest, no. And then we have the opposite in a way, that we have, as an organization, there are topics on which we have a very strong point of view. Yeah, like climate change and what needs to happen, like human rights and the need to foster an inclusive and diverse organization, culture, and society.
Yeah, the inclusivity is that I think it's easy to say that we are a diverse company. In practice, how do you even do this? Because obviously, when you look at the database of thousands of employees, usually almost never these numbers reflect like the real demographics of society around us. Are there things in HR best practices from Sweden, for example, that you also implement to make sure that you have a diverse company, even if the candidates are not always diverse?
So there's a few things that we take from our mother company as well. For instance, on gender diversity. Yeah. There we have clear goals, and we are aiming to an equal representation of both genders, both main genders, I would say, or binary genders.
And are you successful even on the higher levels?
We're not too bad. We're not at 50-50. I think we go from 55% of all our co-workers in Belgium are women to 45% of managers. Oh. So it's a strong, it's a solid base, but it's not 50. So we are working on that. What we are very proud of is equality in pay. Oh. So for a same job and same level of competence and experience, your gender or any other criteria should not actually interfere.
It's one of the few things that Belgium as a country scores better than other countries. Equal pay.
I think that's something that we should be proud of, and that we need to continue working with all the time, because it's not a box that you tick. It's something that you continuously work with and check all the time.
Let's circle back to what's going on in the world on a local level. For example, there are people who have, because of the economic crisis, let's face it, there's still a cost of living crisis, and this has consequences for people. They find out that renting a house or buying a house is too expensive. Furniture is, of course, related. Does IKEA take a stand there?
Yeah, IKEA really, in Belgium, we really want to take a stand for what we call decent homes. And that's really the idea of, as you say, cost of living is really, increasing, you could say, but also, even somebody with a roof over their head, sometimes it's not an environment where...
It's a taboo in Belgium, huh? Things like child poverty.
Things like child poverty, it's very little talk about. What we've investigated a little bit on the topic, and we figured out that there are populations that are more vulnerable to that, and single parent families, for instance, are very vulnerable. Yeah. There is and I'm sorry, but I don't think I will remember the figure, but there is a striking number or percentage of these families who are, in this struggling area. So here we really actively try to first talk about this, advocate it, lobby, you could say, with other companies, other organizations. We have had roundtables, for instance, where we bring...
Could you name some names of organizations you partner with?
Yeah, we partner. Yeah, totally. We partner, for instance, with in Flanders with CAW, and in Wallonia with AMA. They are both a little bit equivalent. They work together with shelters, and we work with them with shelters on single parents, and trying to support them, helping them to prepare for their first next new decent home. And we do this by donations. We do this by financial support, but also giving expertise. We have a program for our co-workers to volunteer in some shelters. So we're really quite active. And then we have in the past and on regular basis, we work with the King Baudouin Foundation as well. And we try to work also with the local authorities when that is possible, and when we we can collaborate on their projects.
How far does this go? For example, if there's like some crisis, like with the floodings in Wallonia a couple of years ago, how does this work? Do you spontaneously go search out like the mayor of a city or organizations?
Yeah, that's what happened there, for instance. Yeah, because that's an interesting example with the flooding in Wallonia. The support was very much coordinated by the local authorities, by the cities. Yeah. So there we got in touch with the cities around where our stores were, and really asked, what support do you want? Yeah. During the COVID, we have worked also more through the NGOs that were very active in the sector. So together with Médecins Sans Frontières, for instance. So we try to figure out who is coordinating the need, and what we don't do is we don't usually ourselves say that, okay, here we are and we're going to build up something. We're going to save it. We work with the people who know what they're doing on that specific topic, and we bring our expertise when it helps, but we also ask them what they need, basically, which I think is the right way to collaborate at that
For example, there's the ongoing refugee crisis going on, very hot topic in Belgium. Yeah. Is IKEA involved in that somehow? Yeah,
we have also here been working with NGOs who are working with these refugee people, and we have a program to offer them internships. So we've had about 100 interns over 2 years. They come to our stores for, I think it's 4 months, if I'm not mistaken, and then they work part-time with us, and part-time they are doing language classes, and so we work there as well with an organization that is called iDiverso, who's really knowledgeable in this and who coaches both these refugees but also our own teams. So it's a very interesting thing, because what we're doing is we're helping these people to get some experience of the work market in Belgium. Mm-hmm. Some of them have stayed with us, others have left, but then they already have put their feet into the work market. In some cases, they hadn't worked for a long time.
And the paperwork has been taken care of. I can imagine that's, refugees. Yeah, then usually they don't have...
No, indeed. And then they're in this process to get their papers, but they can already prove that they know what it is. It's a bit of a... Yeah, starting to integrate them. And for our own co-workers, it's also a fabulous experience, because then you get to coach somebody else. You get to meet someone who comes with a completely different background. Yeah. And that's also, a richness that is fantastic. So I'm actually really proud of that.
So in the partnerships, you work with organizations who know what they're doing. Yeah. Can initiatives like this also come from the employees at IKEA who say, I heard about someone who's in trouble, can we help?
What we have is that we have, for our own co-workers, we have now I would call that a social fund. We have put money aside, and our co-workers, they have the possibility, in case of very extreme situations where they can't cope financially, to ask for a little help. Then it is also set up in a way that somebody else handles it than us. So it's in pure confidentiality. We don't know who's applying for it. We don't know who's getting the money. What we are doing is we're making it available, and we're also explaining the whole discussion. So that, for instance, is in place.
In our previous episodes, we talked about open source collaboration, which is basically about doing a project together right?
Yeah.
But also sharing data afterwards so that both parties can learn from it. And this is a way for two completely different companies to learn about new markets, for example. Is this something that IKEA already does, sharing data after collaborating?
I think typically in the type of projects that we've talked about, yes, definitely. We are collaborating there and we're, building something together. And then when we are, then we're really sharing. I was also...
Data maybe... Sharing data is maybe not...
It depends. It
depends
depends
on,
in which
if
context.
It's personal data,
it depends what data you're talking about. It depends if it's individualized or aggregated or so. But we are happy to, for instance, with the program of the refugees, we have really explained our whole process. We've done actually conferences or mini seminars to explain it, and that we put available, the whole methodology, who you can talk to if you want to set this up as well. So this kind of stuff we're doing easily.
You mentioned in our preparations a partnership with Renewy, but I have no idea who they are. And
oh yeah, that's really interesting. Thank you for remembering. Renewy, they are one of the very big actors in waste management. And it's indeed, that's an interesting one where a lot has been put and shared, I would say. Renewy and IKEA have together co-founded a company called Retour Matras. And Retour Matras is a company that is has developed and is doing. They have developed a unique way to recycle mattresses in a sustainable way. So that sounds, it's super technical, but I would say with my specialist words, recycling mattresses is very complicated because there's all kinds of materials.
Different materials.
And there's chemicals involved as well. And that's not good.
And bodily fluids.
Yeah, voilà.
I know that's
on
too
top
much
of it
information, but let's be honest.
Don't think about
We've
this.
all been there.
But unfortunately, there are very few, if only one now, companies that know how to deal with this in a sustainable way. And most of the organizations who recycle mattresses, they just, burn them, which is very bad for the planet. So Retour Matras, and that's really where the expertise of Renewy on waste management and recycling comes together with the expertise of IKEA, who knows quite a lot about mattresses, but also about people's habits and so. And that's when they came together and created this company, who's now very active in the Netherlands, and since I think about a year or so, also in Belgium. So so if you would ever consider recycling mattresses on large scale, there is a very good
way.
In a discreet way.
And do they come pick it up as well? Because mattresses are a bit, bulky.
But that they do with the they do it from it's a B2C a B2B service. So they, for instance, IKEA
recycling centers.
IKEA. We take back mattresses. So we have all these used mattresses, and when they need to be recycled, then we send them through Retour Matras.
Yes, now I get it. All right. Well, the easiest way.
Sparkled passion in both sides, I think. I personally, so I had fun watching it, but also I think from a marketing and a collaboration perspective, it's amazing.
I looked it up. They had more than 100 brand collaborations.
Oh wow,
that must have been a lot
that's
of
even
work.
You've done the research more than me. I enjoyed it, and I thought from the guys at Mattel, pretty clever way.
It's impressive.
I
agree. And some of them are obvious, like if you have like a fashion line with Zara, or a jewelry line, a perfume, bright pink ice cream. So it's still impressive that they have 100, but I found one that might be inspiring. So they also had one of those 100 brand partnerships was with Airbnb. And Airbnb offered a chance to stay in a life-sized replica of Barbie's Malibu dream house. Isn't that amazing?
I think that's a girly phantasm.
Yeah,
fantasy. Sorry.
You can celebrate your 30th birthday with all your besties.
But I think it's pretty. It's very clever. I think of these brands to have surfed on something that made the buzz, but also in a kind of a positive way.
In a very it's uplifting.
Absolutely.
Also, it's very powerful if your brand is a color. You can just claim this bright pink. And then I went to see Barbie a while ago with my daughter, and you could see who was going to see the movie because women and men alike, were wearing something in that bright pink. So
and it's been very well orchestrated, I have to say.
There's this other brand that I also only recently heard about. It's a shoe brand called Allbirds.
Yeah.
It's for those who don't know, could you explain what's so special? Because we talked about sneakers last time, but Allbirds is special. They're more than just sneakers.
Yeah, and I think I've heard about them very recently in a speech given by Wim Vermeulen. So I think I should also say where I got my source.
Yeah.
And I didn't know about them, but they're really interesting. They do sneakers, but they want to do it with the least possible impact on the planet. So they have worked out a way of calculating their carbon footprint with...
Footprint, I see what you did there.
But I mean, if for anyone who has ever tried to look into this is super complicated to do. And they've developed their own calculator, which they have made fully available. So you were talking about open source. And what I think is also... So first... fantastic. They're producing shoes, and
even the source materials from the new shoes are already recycled.
Yeah, exactly. And then they tell you on each shoe, it's written what is the impact of that shoe, which I think is also it's an interesting detail because as a consumer, it also, in one hand makes you aware, but also you feel good with this in a way, I suppose. You know what you've been buying, and they give you comparison points as well. So this shoe compared to, I don't know, a flight to somewhere. But what I think is interesting as well is they seem to be a relatively small company.
I don't think they have physical stores.
That could be. Yeah.
So they need partnerships, I think.
Need partnership, and they've really... broken through in this big industry of sneakers, and now they have guys like Nike or ASICS who also want to have this transparency on their impact. And Nike, for instance, from what I understood, who's really asked them to collaborate and get the knowledge from them. So I think it's quite interesting to see how the small player here is really challenging a whole industry in a positive way for a positive impact.
Impact is crucial. So you moved from the dark side to the light side. Do you now also take your expertise that you learned from HR to a marketing audience? For example, with the Belgian Association of Marketing, does your HR experience help in coming up with new ideas?
I hope it will eventually, at least. But I don't know. It's hard for me to separate this. I've been super lucky to. Thanks for talking about this. I've been super lucky to be elected as one of the board members of the Belgian Association of Marketing, which I feel quite passionate about because one of the things that they do is they really try to put marketeers together or marketeers at heart like me. To try to think together, to build on this collective intelligence and, contribute through marketing to positive change in the world and in society. And I think that's a fantastic thing. So indeed, I hope that the stuff that I'm learning now from an HR perspective enriches also my contribution. So for instance, I'm now in one of the think tank, which is around diversity and inclusion, because that's a topic that also talks to me in my professional role at the moment.
I also recommend the Facebook group from Belgian Association of Marketing, where I'm personally very active. Whenever I come across something like this Allbirds case or Barbie that might inspire other marketing professionals, that's where I share it in the Belgian Association of Marketing's Facebook group. So if you're not a member yet, you have to become one. You will learn a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really collaboration within these circles as well.
You're also you're in both worlds, which makes you very interesting, I think, marketing and HR. Do you have a similar involvement in HR organizations?
I'm still new in the HR world, about 18 months. So I am trying now to take contacts. I've had the chance to speak in a congress organized by an HR magazine, HR Square. And there I thought, again, the same thing than with the BAM, the openness and the willingness to exchange, collaborate, support each other that I saw among the participants, that really excites me. So I'm trying to build these contacts as well.
Who is your role model? Who do you want to be when you grow up?
I'm so old already, but still developing. I don't really have a role model. I believe in role models in plural. I think we are not one piece. So there are things that I learn from all kinds of people. I think recently I've been inspired by a few young women that I've met in different contexts. One in my professional environment, where somebody who is her positive vibes and how she brings peace and optimism to everything, I think is fantastically inspiring for somebody.
What is your relation to her? Are you her boss or?
No, I am. She's also one of our. She's one of our people and culture manager for one of our units. So I work with her, but I'm not her direct boss.
And
but we are in the same community, I would say.
You are her mentor or coach or?
No, we
friend?
have no, a colleague, good colleague. I hope. Yeah, no.
And you learn from her.
And then there's another one whom I coach, but I would say on my private time through an NGO. And she is. I admire the. Willingness and the energy that she puts into learning and developing herself all the time, and that is that for me is very inspiring and aspirational. For instance, so I pick bits and pieces here and there.
You're very open. Fictional characters, maybe recently that you think, wow, in my leadership style, I could learn. Yeah, you can. I mean, it's just between us and the internet.
Between us. No, I was dressed up as Cruella de Vil for my 40th birthday, but so I'm not sure that's a good.
Do you have the coat? Yeah. You do.
Yeah.
Wow,
it's super beautiful. But please, let's make sure that everybody understands this is not really me. Okay.
But it's I cosplay as Wonder Woman, and to be honest, when you put on these clothes, you feel empowered. You're someone else, and it can be, very rewarding to just step into a different character, even if only for one day. So that's how it feels for me. So I can imagine the same thing. She had a beautiful car, by the way, this classic car
and just clothing and fantastic. But I mean, she's not my role model in life.
No, because she's.
No, I had another one. That sounds a bit silly again. Years ago, I don't think she's still there, but years ago there was this. It was actually a marketing stunt. This little statue of the fearless girl. She was in. You remember
who's with her stance towards the
I still have a picture of her in my home office. She inspires me. I think she's out there. She goes for it.
Yes,
it might not work, but she goes for it. So that's inspiring me very much.
Yes, the little girl with her. I think she's back, but they put her in a different position. But the statue was made by an artist who wanted to make a balance with another life-size bronze statue of a bull. And a bull is for investors, they want to stir up things, and then it's very aggressive. And then there's this little girl, like 6 or 7 years old, with her hands in her side, and she's fearless. Yeah. So the fearless girl.
The fearless girl would be my fictional character role model.
Oh, I see. That's a nice one. Well, for me, it's still Wonder Woman.
It's pretty good as well.
Yeah, I like it a lot. We're nearing the end of this podcast, and then usually we try to end with something weird, funny, artistic. And I went looking for something Swedish because I still want. There's a lot we can learn from Swedish culture, I think, and the way they're open and how they use humor in to diffuse a lot of tense situations. And I found one. It's a Swedish company which has been around since the 90s, actually. It's called Oatly. And Oatly is a food company, and as the name suggests, all of their products are purely plant-based, made out of oats, for example, or rapeseed oil. And so they're all, and this is ticking a lot of boxes for a lot of people, they're all certified kosher and vegan, non-GMO, project verified, gluten-free. I mean, just mention
the whole
something.
list of
the whole
everything
list,
is there.
and you might think, okay, so they're doing everything right. Well, no, exactly the fact that they have all these properties triggers a lot of people. And so both their own audience and an audience of people who will never buy their product. So you can imagine the challenges that this brings in social media alone, for example. So how do they handle this? And I really admire this. It takes a lot of guts to do this. So they actually created a website called fckoatly.com. So the U is silent, right? So fckoatly.com. And so this is a website where they make it very easy for people to get angry at Oatly. So if you say, I absolutely hate Oatly, I hate Oatly is actually a button on the website. And then you can just get rid of your emotions. They also, and that's why I think it's interesting for marketing professionals. And I know a lot of our subscribers are marketing professionals. And you can learn a lot from the way they handle communications crises and how they handle negative comments. I'll just pick two. So criticism from their own customer base. So someone found out that the residue product of their whole process, that it was being shipped to a pig farm. And you might think, yeah, of course. I mean, what are you going to do with the residue? You can dump it in the ocean, so why not use it as pig feed? No, it was a pig farm.
So that's not good.
So that's not good. And then more recent example is all these self-proclaimed nutrition experts on TikTok, for example. My God, there's a lot of them. And they will make false claims about Oatly products, and say that there are one word that is used quite often when critics talk about Oatly is it's toxic sludge that they're selling, and the ingredients are genetically modified. There's a whole dark underbelly of the internet where there's this is getting really, you might say, what can go wrong? You're selling, a healthy
something
food
that is healthy. Yeah.
There's a dark underbelly of white supremacists who are against everyone who doesn't drink milk. Of course, because milk is white and lactose intolerance. So it gets dark, really. And then you see how they handle this and how they respond to this criticism, how they correct information that is not wrong, that is not correct, and how they always keep the same tone and voice. And I've been on this side of the fence as well as a conversation manager, and very often it hurts your feelings and you just want to block them or type a response in all caps. It's inspiring to read these responses from fckoatly.com. I think you can learn a lot from it. And it's bold, it's intelligent, it's courageous. So this is, and it's funny very often. Does IKEA attract this type of unwanted criticism easily, or?
I think, it's the thing with marketing as well. You cannot please everyone. No. So, yes, of course. Thank God, not a lot. But yes, of course. And then
What's the worst thing that someone said about IKEA?
The worst thing, I don't know, but I mean, usually, there's complaints there's a lot of jokes going on with IKEA as well, on how, you were talking about assembling furniture. Yeah, there's a lot of jokes. You come to a job interview and you have to assemble the chair or, all these kinds. So there is this...
Memes, IKEA memes.
They're funny, but they're also somehow... underneath, they're a little bit undermining the quality, these kind of things. This happens. And then I guess we try to do it maybe not as bluntly as Oatly, but we try to do it as well, with the same tone of voice also and try to answer. But I think it's a really clever way that they have put in place.
I remember a couple of years ago, so this is the equivalent of a bomb that dropped on a PR level. So Ronaldo, the football player, was I think it was a World Cup. And so it was a press conference. So a room full of journalists, everyone taking pictures of Ronaldo. sponsored by Coca-Cola. So Coca-Cola obviously puts 2 bottles, Coca-Cola Zero and normal Coca-Cola, and in front of him, which any good PR responsible of a sponsor would do. Do you remember how he react?
I think he didn't want it, right?
He did. No, he said, Coca-Cola, no. And he threw away the bottle
wanted water
and took a
or
bottle
something.
of water. So then IKEA reacted with their own glass bottle, and they renamed it from something with a lot of umlauts to Ronaldo.
That I didn't know. See?
Yeah, it was
I remember the
very
Ronaldo
funny.
thing, but
It was before your time. And Oatly, for example, for those who listen and say, rolling your eyes and say fckoatly.com is probably the agency that came up with it. So people who don't like fckoatly.com, there's another website for that as well. It's called fckoatly.com. So if you
this is a never-ending
it's for
story.
the haters, yeah.
But it's a good way to also keep the finger on the pulse and
exactly.
know what you're going against. I think it's clever.
It's very clever.
And also shows a big sense of humor.
Yes, exactly. That's important.
I always like.
Well, that's a wrap for today's episode of the KOO Podcast series with our special guest star, Anne-Clotilde Picot. For more insightful conversations like this one, remember to check out our podcast on Spotify, YouTube, weareco.be, and to follow us on social media. Thank you for joining us, and keep exploring the power of collaborative intelligence in marketing and business. Until the next one, bye.